reasons whatsoever, then many extremists in those countries might want to see that change. And of course, groups like Al-Qaeda, groups like ISIS, that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to take over these places so they can implement their own countries, their own policies, and rule them according to their interpretation of their religious book. All right. Hey, we've got movements in the Philippines as well. All righty. We've got extremists in the Philippines. We've got extremists in Nigeria. All righty, in sub-Saharan Africa. We're trying to influence the governments in those places as well. Okay. Where is an example where fundamentalists are in other conflicts with fundamentalists, folks? That's happening right now in the Middle East, in Syria and Libya. There's many fights between Sunnis and Shiites over who's going to be the leader of the new government. Again, because the leader of that government is going to be able to establish policies, laws, in whatever way they prefer. Okay? And then, of course, in the bold there, it says, explain religious fundamentalism in Soviet Union, Communist China. Look, fundamentalists in Soviet Union and Communist China fought against communism. Alrighty. Communists generally like to eliminate religion because they consider to be a religion a challenge to their authority. If the people believe in a faith, for instance, they're not going to believe in the government as the all-powerful, all-knowing being. And so Orthodox Christians and Catholics in the communist Soviet Union resisted. They led the resistance. Oftentimes they were persecuted. They were killed because the communist government knew these were some of the folks that were leading the resistance. While many of these faiths were technically banned in the Soviet Union, these churches still operated, and oftentimes worshiping still took place, in secret, in private, outside the eyes of the government itself. Alrighty. In China, it's Buddhists, all right, that lead the resistance to a communist government, especially in Western China, the mountainous desert area. We see many examples of this resistance. Alrighty. India. Look, we've got in northern India, in a place called Kashmir. Alrighty, we've got Muslims and Hindus that both believe that region ought to belong to them. And so we have terrorist groups, extremist groups on both sides that will oftentimes engage in attacks in northern India, right on the Pakistan-India border, in order to try to almost scare the other side into giving it up. Alrighty, so India-Pakistan has a number of religious problems, religious fundamentalism as well. The Middle East, and we already kind of talked about that. I think Israel is probably the greatest example. Israel and Palestine, right? Palestinians believe that Holy Land ought to belong to them. When Israel was created in the 1940s, many Palestinians resisted. Some of them obviously resisted with force, with violence. There have been 3 wars between Israel and the surrounding countries since the 1940s over who ought to control those holy lands. Again, the U.S. is a close ally of Israel. And so we technically believe that both sides ought to coexist with one another in that area. Ireland, remember, Northern Ireland is predominantly Protestant. All right, the rest of the country is Catholic. Those Catholics for about 50 years engaged in a terrorist campaign to try to scare the Protestants back to England. All right. Recently, they have, in the last 20 years, they've signed a series of peace agreements, so the conflict has died down in Ireland. To the point where it's almost non-existent today. Okay? Again, the opposite of fundamentalism is secularism. Alrighty? Secularism is non-religion or irreligion. Alrighty? Where it's just not a significant thing to you whatsoever. It does not affect your outside beliefs. Alrighty? Please don't confuse secularism with sectarianism. Right? Sectarianism is where one religious group attacks another. Alrighty? When one sect attacks another, for instance, when Sunnis might attack Shiites. Alright? Questions? Alrighty. Guys, just so you know how oil prices are super low? Gas prices are super low right now. Anybody notice that? How gas prices have gone super way down? There's a speculation out there. There was a theory I read yesterday that the reason why gas prices are so low is because Sunnis are trying to get back at the Shiites in Iran. Alrighty. They want to destroy their economy. And so Saudi Arabia and some of these Sunni countries have so much more oil, they're willing to pump a lot more right now because they know Iran can't keep up. So they want to almost be the dominant economic power in the Middle East. And there might be religious reasons for that as well. Alrighty, so sometimes fundamentalism isn't just violence, it's not extremism. It can affect public policy as well. It can affect government policy. Alright, kind of interesting. You need to be able to distinguish between the dominant religious branches on a map of the United States, just like you need to do in Europe. Only obviously in the United States, you got to be more specific. You got to know the denominations, alrighty, the major denominations. I'm talking about where's Roman Catholicism, alrighty, where's baptism, where is Methodism and Lutheranism, alrighty, and then of course where is Mormonism located, alright, and then brief examples of why, right? Remember, it has to do with migration, alright. Just think, the people that practice that faith inside the United States, where did they come from? Alrighty, that probably explains why that faith is still dominant today. Alrighty, questions? Okay. Alrighty, I think that's it. Alrighty, for religion. Let's go over to the ethnicity side, please. I actually need the ethnicity questions. Alright, I don't have them here. Somebody want to hook me up? For time. Alrighty. One, what's the major difference between race and ethnicity? Look, race is when you identify with a group of people because of biological similarities. Alrighty. Genetic similarities. Alright. Stuff you're born with that you have no control over. Alright. Ethnicity is when you identify with a group of people over shared cultural customs, beliefs, behavior. Alrighty. So again, race has to do with biology, genetics. Alrighty, and that's you're similar because you look like those people. Alright. Whereas ethnicity is, hey, you behave like those people. You share common culture, common behavior, common traits, common activities. Alright. Next part of that is, what is ethnocentrism? Ethnocentrism is when you believe your ethnicity is kind of the center of the world, alrighty, where you think your ethnicity is very significant, alright, and almost where you judge other ethnicities based on your own. It's kind of the opposite of cultural relativism, alright? Remember how we always talk about trying to step in other people's shoes to understand them? If you're ethnocentric, usually you don't. You judge people based on your own ethnicity and you compare them to that, alrighty? Ethnic centrism. It's the center of me, center of my life. And so again, ethnocentrism is almost, it's considered kind of a negative, alrighty, because again, it's almost where you value your